So, Gimli Forge podcast, number one episode. Number one.
With the number one.
With the number one. Should have been number one in March, was it, that you fought the mental fight, David?
March was the fight, David. Well, I didn't even have to fight to be number one. That's even easier.
We'll get to that.
Yes,
so, with Antonio The Spartan Caruso, mate, pleasure to have you.
Hey, pleasure.
First guest.
Thank you very much. Thank
First
you.
guest. Had a good PT, and I'm very much like, because I'm like, with a professional fighter, I'm like, with amateurs, you would have seen like so much that's like, it's like, if only I knew as an amateur.
Of course. And that's one of my biggest things, in recent, not of recent, let me say, of recent I've more paid attention to it, but I want to give a lot more of the information and the knowledge that I've been able to acquire over the past 15 years traveling the world, training, fighting. I've trained, in the likes of Thailand, to the USA, to Europe, fought through Asia, fought through America and Australia. I've trained around Australia, the Gold Coast, with jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, you name it, I've done it all. And I've acquired a lot of information in terms of, mind setting, dietitian, training, and just even to be a fight trainer as well. These skills that I've acquired, and I want to give back a lot of this information to the guys of South Australia, because there's a lot of things that I hear personally from friends and other people that the way they prepare for fights and the things they're doing, they're so I wouldn't even know what the word would be from. They're like, like from a cave time, So,
for sure.
and I've got the knowledge now, and I'd love to hand that down to a lot of gyms and a lot of fighters who are open to listen to it.
Exactly.
So, that's sort of one of my goals at the moment.
Yeah, that's one thing I really respect about you is I've noticed you, you're a South Australian boy, born, bred, and proud.
Yeah.
You fought on 1FC PFL, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
PFL.
Yeah, PFL, and I'm like. And your dreams to get to the big show as well. But we'll get to that later. So I just want to talk about as well, how you grew up. Did you get into a family of fighters, or what was that like?
Growing up, so as a young guy, I actually grew up in this very house that we're in. So when I was born in the western suburbs, and then when I was about 5, they split up, and then we moved to here, and this is where my grandparents lived. So we grew up with me, my dad, my 2 brothers, and my grandparents. And my grandparents were immigrants from Italy. They could barely speak any English. My grandfather was a very tough, hard guy. So we weren't a family of fighters per se, boxers, kickboxers, but we were a family of hard-working people who really came from nothing and really just had to work for everything we had.
Yeah.
Hence my career. You know what I mean? I've come from nothing, and I've worked for everything that I've had to be earned. And to this day, I'm still working to get to where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And like I said, that comes from, most from my immigrant, grandparents.
Yeah.
That's how they were. My grandmother, my nonna and my nonno, Diego and Domenica, their names were. They were the hardest working people. They never ever had anything nice. All they ever done was for myself, my family, my dad, my cousins, my uncles, all of them. They gave them houses, they gave them clothes, they looked after their family. And they were just selfless people who loved the family and just wanted to do great for everyone. And so that's where I started. So I wasn't from a fighting background per se, but yes, definitely from a family of fighters.
Yeah, that's what I notice a lot about fighters as well. It's they're not necessarily born into a family of fighters, but it's a lot of I guess a tough background. So, and I like how you speak to that. It's right. Your family, where they immigrated from Italy, they worked from nothing to where it is now.
And that's the thing that I've begun to realize over these last especially 10 years or so is. A lot of people, they look at me as, Antonio The Spartan, you're a tough guy, this and that. And I'm like, in the day, guys, we all have a fight inside of us. We're all fighting a battle of some sort, whether it be, mental illness, whether it be trying to get out of the poverty barrier, whether it's trying to pick up a girl, whether it's trying to just be a lawyer, studying law school. We all have a battle in our lives. Every single day that we have to get up and we have to face it front on. And yeah, it's no different to being a fighter, to being a martial artist. And that's why I personally have just fallen in love with martial arts. And I've made it my life. I've turned, this is a gym literally in my house. I love to teach people. I love to educate people about martial arts, because I always say to them, it's not just about learning how to fight. It's also learning about, I know it's going to sound stupid, but how to fight. You don't have to be a fighter to know how to fight. Because every day, it's like you had to get on the bus here today, get your ass all the way here to do a personal training session, to then now do a podcast that now you're chasing your dream with. It's a fight. It's going to be a battle. It's not going to be, you're not going to be Joe Rogan overnight.
No. That'd be the dream.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. But, unfortunately, life doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it fun. You know what I mean? If I told you all you're going to do is start up a podcast, you're going to take off like Joe Rogan, of course it's great. Don't be wrong. The money and that's all there. But it's the journey that Joe Rogan went through that made Joe Rogan who Joe Rogan is today. Exactly. If you know Joe Rogan from early days, which I don't know personally, but I remember as a young guy seeing Joe Rogan on what was he on? What was that show? Fear Factor. He was on. He was on a few different TV shows. Just Shoot Me. Yeah. He was on a few different programs here and there. Yeah. So my point being is Joe Rogan hasn't always been Joe Rogan of today. So it was a fight, it was a battle, and now look at him. So that goes for anyone in everyone's career and anything. Yeah. It just doesn't have to be for the people and the sportsmen. It can be for anybody. It can be from a doctor, lawyer, a hardworking, a family man, a father. Everyone has a fight every day. So yeah.
And I like that analogy as well. It's like everyone has a different fight, and it doesn't have to be necessarily martial arts. Like you're very much like fight for your dreams, fight for what you want, fight for what you love. Like I know your wife recently was on The Voice. Is that right?
Fiance, soon to be wife.
Soon to be wife.
Yes, December. Yes, Dad, you're all right. Don't sell me short, man.
I shouldn't be. But it's like seeing people, especially in your family now, it's like fighting for their dreams. And it's like now you're getting to this. It's incredible. Like as I said, 1FC, PFL, everything. So I guess, how did you, growing up, when did you sort of like, what was your first memories of like martial arts or a fight, or even as a kid, was it like tough? Was it fun?
Man, all right. So my first memories of, I'll be honest, let me just be totally honest. I'm very honest. My first memories of violence was from my dad. He was a tough dude, bro. He used to pound us. He used to beat us, everything. But we were young Italian kids. It was three brothers. My dad was a single parent growing up. You know, me and my three brothers, with my grandparents. Obviously, hey, life came at him. His wife left him. That shit is. So my dad had a very tough time to grow up three boys. So that was my first sort of view on violence was, your dad's crazy. Yeah, and he kept us disciplined that way. And then my dad, he got us into... So my dad, he was a very forward thinker. My dad was the sort of person where a lot of things that he missed out in life, he didn't want me and my brothers to miss out on. So he got us all into martial arts. He got us all into music. And we all had to go to school. There were three things we had to do as young guys. You wouldn't allow anything else. You had to go to school, had to do a martial art, and had to play an instrument. That was the must of my dad. And so then we got introduced to... I started off with Taekwondo with Andy Rutten. He's quite a well-known guy in Adelaide for doing his Taekwondo. That's where I started. And then when we moved down to Salisbury, because Andy was like more western suburbs from memory. And I was actually, funniest thing is my dad actually left that club because they wouldn't grade me. Because my brother, we did a grade. I find that so funny. So the first ever Taekwondo club, my dad told the coach to F off because he wouldn't grade me because I was actually not very good at it. And I find it so funny after all these years that I turned out to be the martial arts that I did. So my brother's graded. My brother Diego actually even got a black belt in Taekwondo. And Savvy was grading. And I was the only one. I was terrible at it. I was really shit at a lot of stuff. Then we left that. I went off and started playing other sports like soccer, basketball, continue with my music, continue with school. Then my dad took us to his brother, his oldest brother, who I'm actually named after, Antonio. That's my name, and that's named after my uncle Tony. He's a black belt in Shotokan karate, and we learned under him for about I can't remember the exact, like several years were under him. And then when I was about 14, we left there and I started playing football. I started playing at Centrals and I started playing at the Magpies. So I was playing a bit of high-level football, and then the football dream sort of fell out when I was about 18. And then I went back to karate with my brother Sav because he was still with my uncle, training under doing Shotokan karate. And then it got to a point where me and my brother started getting really curious about martial arts, and especially my brother Sav. And that's who really got me into it all. He is the guy that sort of is the reason why I am who I am today. Is really because of my brother Sav. He got me into. So I was playing football, and at about 18, they told me I wasn't going to make it. So I was pretty shit.
So that would have been like pretty devastating. At that time, you would have been chasing your dream.
That's exactly right. It was all, and I'm the sort of person I've always been all in. So I was all in, and I was convinced I'm going to be an AFL player when I grow up. And it didn't work out that way. And I was devastated, heartbroken. I really didn't know what to do with my life because I was, especially as a young guy, you don't really know what to do if you don't make it in your sport. You're sort of like, oh no, what do I do now?
Yeah, what do you do?
Like I don't want to get a job, and I don't want to be a quote unquote loser because that's what you think. You're like, I have to be a footballer to be cool, and then you're like, as you get older, you realize you don't even need anything to be cool. You can just make yourself that person. So I was playing football. That didn't work out. Then my brother Sav, he said to me, Tony, I want you to come down and do some jiu-jitsu with me and Peter. That's when Peter O'Shea came into the picture. So my brother invited me to come down there. And it's a funny story. I've told it many, many times. I'm not sure if you heard it before, but I bet my brother $500 he wouldn't beat me.
I haven't heard this.
He'd always invite me to come. And I'd say, I don't want to come do gay jiu-jitsu. It's gay. It's gay. That's what I always say.
Keep jiu-jitsu gay. I love it. I loved it when Craig Jones started that.
Oh, he's the man, Craig Jones.
And if I'm not wrong, I think MA1 Combat has it on a rash guard.
Yes, I'm pretty sure they do.
I haven't personally bought it. Like I've got a rash guard with my young adults pastor's face on the back. And everyone just looked at me and went, what's this guy doing? I'll show a photo. But it was the funniest thing in the world. And then I think like a few days later, I was just like, hey, here's the medal and here's the rash guard for you. So it was absolutely awesome.
Nice.
But having those little bets, I think it does help to that's a personal personal drive.
But that's me. I'm the sort of guy. I always had a big ego. I've always thought I'm the best. I've always thought I'm unstoppable, even as a young guy. So that's why when football didn't work out, I was heartbroken. I was like, how the hell did I not make it? And then my brother Sav helped me, I guess, in a way, channel all that energy into a new sport. And he would challenge me all the time to come to jiu-jitsu. I had to be the hot shot that I am and bet him that $500 that he couldn't beat me in a minute. I went down to the club and he beat me in a minute. So I said to him, what do you think I said after he beat me in a minute?
Oh my word.
Have a guess. This is how much of a hot shot I am. Guess what I said to him?
Probably told him, probably like F off or something.
That was a part of it. I said, fuck you, double or nothing now.
Oh my word. I love it
when
I got up, double or nothing.
I got up and I said, bring it on. So I thought this time, I'm not going to wrestle him because once he gets a hold of me, I'm fucked because I don't know what I'm doing. So this time I'm trying to run away from him, trying to keep my distance. And he rags me to the ground. I'll never forget it, bro. He had me in a head arm choke, and I remember everyone's counting. They're like, "This is a minute," and they're like, 5, 4, and I can just see everything getting smaller and smaller. I tapped, and everyone's like, "Bro, you literally tapped on the 59th second." So he beat me double to nothing. And still to this day, I've never paid him the money. So fuck you, Sav. You're not getting the money. All right,
wait,
you owe me. He owes me, bro.
Hold on. Wait, so you've never paid him that?
That's how much of a hot shot I am, bro. I make bets and then I don't even pay him on top. I'm a hot shot. I've got an ego through the roof.
That's hilarious.
And but I won't lie, my ego got checked there, and I was like, damn. And then I rolled with young guy at our gym. He was about 14 at the time, and he wrapped me up like a pretzel, and I was like, I gotta learn how to do this shit. This is amazing because I came in as a 19-year-old guy. I was fit, I was strong, I was playing football. I wasn't scared of nothing or nobody. And then I got my ass kicked by my brother, who, fair enough, he's your older brother. You can let that go. But a 14-year-old kid, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So then, I fell in love with the sport. I started training every single day, and then I was still actually playing football at the time. And the club was like, during preseason, they're like, "You coming out this year?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that anymore. I want to learn how to fight." So then, then I started doing jiu-jitsu under the great man Peter O'Shea. Massive shout out to Peter O'Shea. He's been like an inspiration and one of my favorite people that I've ever met in my life, and helped change my life along with many other great people. And I started learning under Peter. I went into competition within 6 months. They put me in 2 comps, and I won both competitions. I I won 2 gold medals at the
Yeah.
States as a white belt, and then I went over to Melbourne a week later, and I won another gold medal over in Melbourne. And yeah, Leo and Peter were like, "All right, you're really good." And within 6 months, I got my blue belt.
Nice.
And yeah, then I went into and obviously had a further career in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then, then later down the track, I met, like I said, I was saying earlier, I met Don Mackay, who was my first boxing coach. And yeah, Don was one of those other people. Once again, massive shout out to Don Mackay. And he's one of those guys who helped change my life, taught me how to box. He really taught me not only how to box, he taught me how to fight. He taught me how to be a man, to be tough, to take care of my business in a professional and devastating way. And there's only a fight coach and a person who has been a fighter can ever teach you that sort of way of thinking and that mentality. And it took me years to develop. And me and Don worked together for a very, very long time. And still to this day, Don lives down the street from me. He still comes over all the time, 3-4 times a week. And he hangs out. And he's a great man in my life. So yeah, that's how my career started. And then I started traveling the world. Yeah, then later on, I went on to train at Phuket Top Team for a long time, do a few fight camps out of there, places. I trained at Trinity, I've trained around, but now I'm with, Gilcliff, and that's my gym. That's who I train with full time now. That's sort of my long
story.
It's
like Gilcliff FC, to think of all the, like, people that are in that room, it's like, to me straight away, like Robbie Lawler, Michael Chandler, Gilbert Burns, Ung Lang Un Sung. Like, the list goes on. So for you to be in that room,
it was honestly my first day I ever went there. Even when I moved in, so as I was saying, when I went over to Kilcliff, even when I first went over to Florida, so Danny Roberts, he's in the UFC, Danny Hot Chocolate, they call him. He was a guy I met in England when I was about 24, and then he got me to come over to Kilcliff once I got signed to 1FC. Even my first day getting there, Danny picked me up from the airport and he took me to the house I was going to start. And living in that house was Linton Vassell, who's now a very, very good friend of mine. I lived with Linton for about 3-4 years, also with Marquez and Foz. But Linton was, what I'm trying to say is Linton was a guy that I used to watch on the internet. I was like, fuck, this guy's a beast. He was the number one heavyweight for Bellator. And then all of a sudden I'm like in his house about to live with this guy. So that alone, and then when I went down to the gym, and then I'm standing around guys like Robbie Lawler, Gilbert Burns, Michael Chandler, Kamal Usman, and the list goes on and on and on. Yeah, I was blown away for the first couple of months. I was like, I actually can't believe I'm around these people. I'm talking to them. I'm shaking hands with them. I'm an equal with them. But then where really my mind began to shift, and that's when I guess I believed that it was my career to do something now. So I stood in that room and I stopped looking around in awe, and I started looking at everyone thinking, okay, what makes Robbie Lawler any better than me? He's a man with 2 arms, with 2 legs, 2 eyes, and just a will to win. And then I started to learn that about myself and about the people I was around, and I used them as inspiration. And that's and I love being a part of that gym and around those sort of people, because in that environment, when you're around good people and positive people who want to do nothing but make you grow, it's a very dangerous environment to be in.
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. So I guess now that we sort of covered that, so what was it like when you started training? What was that experience like? Were you like very much like, I wanted to give up? Like, where you?
I mean, that's the thing with me. Like what you said in there is what, like, because in terms of give up, is in because it's so hard. Is that what you sort of inferring?
Like in a way, like it's sort of like I've sort of bitten way more off than I can chew, because I know with some people it's like they sort of like, it's almost like jumping in deep, and it's like, oh my word, it's like
fight or flight, fight or flight. And I've heard of a few stories of young fighters around going over to America, etc., going to different places, and the level being so high above them, it freaks them out. See, when I'm the sort of person, that's why I'm always pushing myself to get into these big organizations like the UFC, 1FC, Bellator, whatever it is, PFL, because whatever task you put in front of me, I'm only going to rise to that occasion. You know what I mean? So when I got to Kilcliff, I wrestled some of the guys over there, and I can wrestle. I was a pretty good wrestler coming out of Australia. And when I say wrestle, it was from what Peter and that had taught me. But it worked for me here in Australia for a long time. But when I went over to America and I started wrestling with, 3-4-time national champions, it was like I never wrestled a day in my life. And I guess maybe call it a mentality thing. Once again, maybe it comes from being an immigrant, like from my family and whatnot. But my mindset is never to give up. My mindset is to learn what they're doing. Okay, these guys are better than me. How can I beat them? So that's what I started to do. I started to develop, the skills that they're learning. I'd ask questions. And then I grew myself to now where I'm a guy where I don't have to be scared about going into a wrestling session with these wrestlers anymore. So, a lot of guys will feel the pressure, adversity, and they back away from it. I'm sort of the person where, I run at adversity. I want to meet adversity head on because I think that's how you grow. I think that's the most time you will grow as an athlete, and especially as a martial artist. And just as a human, the more that you put yourself in adversity, the more you will surprise yourself and the more you will grow. And that's why my life, I've traveled the world for the past 15 years. I'm constantly in a new country. There was 1 year where I traveled overseas 11 times in 1 year. And that's a lot for a person to take on mentally, physically. You're constantly changing your environment, your food, the people around you. And a lot of people don't like that instability. But I enjoy that. And because I'm a full-time martial artist, I've learned to embrace, adversity. I've learned to embrace hard time, embrace change. You know what I mean? So I guess for me, I just rose to the occasion. When I went to Kilcliff and I seen how dangerous hey, bro, I got hurt out there sometimes. There's some tough people out there. But like I said, I would just pick myself up. I'd spit that blood out on the floor and get fucking straight back in there, straight in their face. Because once again, like I said to you right when we were training, I truly 100% believe that what runs through these, my blood is Spartan blood. And I truly believe that I come from Spartan. I don't know how far back it is, but there's some sort of warrior deep in my heart. And that's what comes out of me when it's time, man.
Yeah, and you have it, like when people say the Spartan, it's like straight away, it's like they associate like Antonio Caruso. And that's what I love is like everyone knows. And it's for me, I'm like, I just love like the nature of like, what it means to be like a Spartan, and you call yourself the Spartan. And I love that because it's like it's a warrior spirit, and I feel like it's almost like a mantra. It's like, and I feel like some people have a different way of like what does a Spartan mean to them. It's like, and I know for me, I'm like I love like how you just a warrior, you push through everything, doesn't matter. So I feel like in a way, like you're like that. So I guess what does being a Spartan mean to you?
Exactly what you said. Like the biggest thing that a Spartan does for me is, and like you said, it is a mantra thing or whatever you want to call it. But it's true when that music hits, especially that's why I have that same walkout song all the time. Because to me, that's in a way like the New Zealanders have the haka. When that song comes on, there is Tony Caruso, who you are speaking to right now, and I truly believe this. People might think I'm insane, so don't put me in a nut house for after saying this. But I feel like I've honestly, and ever since I was a young boy, I always felt like I had this. It was like a split personality in me. And when that music, I remember as a young guy, I used to walk around this neighborhood, I always just listen to AC/DC, If You Want Blood, You Got It. And every single time I would hear that song, it would do something to my body that I couldn't explain to myself. And I wouldn't even tell anyone about it because I was like, how can I explain this to someone? But I would form, I feel like it was a split personality. There's Antonio the Spartan, and then there's Tony Caruso. There's two different people. So, but what a Spartan means to me is, that will to never give up, to never stop. But the biggest thing is not only to win and to be great and to be the person I am. My biggest drive, and I think the biggest thing behind a Spartan is the community. And that's what I want to do. I want to build. I don't want to be this, like, trust me, I love the name the Spartan. And I love being, I'm as egotistical as they can. I love being the man. But I don't want to be the one and only Spartan. I want to have a community of people around me that are Spartans, that never want to give up. They never have the will to stop. They will do anything that it takes to give their family everything they need. That's what a Spartan is. And that's like my grandparents, I told you from the start. They were my grandparents. It's exactly how they were. My grandmother never had any nice clothes. I know she used to wear shoes that way our old shoes, and her foot would be 2-3 sizes too small for her. But she wouldn't buy anything for herself because that means she would be taking money away from us. She would put the money into our family, to my cousins, to my auntie, my uncles. Like I said, they actually gave them all houses because that's what a Spartan does. A Spartan doesn't just only give himself glory, but he'll give his community glory. And that's what a Spartan means to me. I don't only want to have greatness for myself. I want to have, like you said, I'm getting married at the end of the year. I want to have a beautiful family. I want to give my kids everything. I want to give my brothers everything. And that was always my dream since a young boy. I know it sounds, it sounds like I'm doing it for maybe the sound bites, let's say, but my drive in life is to only give. I only want to get everything I want, just to only give back to everyone that what they gave to me, to Peter, to Don, to Leo, Rude, all these people, Nick Hughes, that have helped me along the way. There's a list that goes on for days. Sam Benetti. I want to one day make myself great and achieve all these amazing things, and then I want to give back to all these people because, like I said, it's one thing to be a Spartan, but it's another thing to have a community of Spartans.
Sure.
So that's what it really means to me to be a Spartan.
Far out. That's a lot, but it's good. It is. It's good.
But you got to remember too, it sounds a lot, but you got to remember I've been sitting on these thoughts for 15 years.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to remember I've flown to America alone. Alone. I've been back and forth to America about 10 or 11 times now, and at least 7 of those times have been alone. And when you fly to America, you have to do a 24-hour flight there and a 24-hour flight back. Yeah. So you've got 24 hours with yourself. So that alone, I'm in Thailand often doing fight camps. So I've had 15 years to reflect and to think and to get up every day because, and do this job over and over and again. And to be honest, those thoughts have never changed in my mind. I'm a man who loves my community. I'm a man who loves my family. And I'm a man who wants to do great for all those people. Because I know if I can build myself into an unstoppable force, then I can help everyone in my community.
Yeah, exactly. Far out.
Yeah, I know. And that's why also I love to, represent Salisbury, and I love to say to people, I am the Spartan from, right here in Adelaide, Salisbury, because when I say that, I want every single young kid out there who lives. Hey, there's not much worse than Salisbury. Let's be honest. Maybe Elizabeth Davern Park, maybe. Park. Maybe. But what I'm saying is, if I can do it, and nobody who couldn't make it in football, a guy who's from Salisbury, why can't you do it? Anyone can make this sport. I'm not nothing special. I'm just a guy that kept showing up and working really hard every day. Yeah, that's the only difference between me and anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Far out. So when did you make your? So did you have any amateur fights, or was it straight to the pros?
Yeah, so I went. So like I said, I started off doing jiu-jitsu, and I got to about a purple belt level as a jiu-jitsu guy. Then I had 4 pro MMA fights. So straight away, my brother, and it was literally my brother, Sav, once again.
Yeah.
He literally come up. We were in Bali. Me, my mate Remo, Sav, Joey, and Anthony Carboni. We all went to Bali running amok. My brother's like, literally before we flew, he's like, "Oh, Tony, you're going to have a fight." I was like, "When?" He said the day. And it was like literally like a week and a half after we got back from Bali. I was like, but back then we didn't know anything about training camps, dieting. Yeah. So I was like, my brother's like, "You're just going to do a competition." I was like, all right. So, because Sav, that's what he'd do to me. He just kept throwing me into things and challenging me. Because he knows that I'll rise to the occasion. And I think he always knew that of me, Sav. That's why he always treated me the way he does. And he still does to this day. He treats me exactly the same. And, he told me, "You're going to fight in this fight." And it was February 2nd, 2013. So we went to Bali, I reckon early January. And literally, bro, my fight camp was, I swear down, before we would go out, Remo and Sav would hold pads for me. We'd do pads and like sweat like crazy in our hotel room. And then one time we went to a jiu-jitsu club in Bali and we absolutely mauled this guy. And that was the last time we went there, and that was my training camp. We came back to Australia. I remember I was on, because we had to make sure because back then I fought at 84 kilos. So on the way back from Bali, they're like, "How much do you weigh, Tony? Because you got to make weight." I was like, "I don't know." So literally we're at the airport in Bali and they got me on the bag scale and I stood on there. And so that's how raw it was. And then I had my first fight. And that's how I sort of got into it. So then I had 4 fights as a pro MMA fighter. And then I was boxing with Don at Mackay, and Don was like, "Tony, you're pretty good as a boxer." While you're waiting, because it was hard to find MMA fights back then. I've always struggled, and that's the thing. And not till recent, my brother sort of brought it back to my memory. My whole entire life in Australia fighting, I always found it very hard to find fights. So we were finding it hard to get MMA fights because, a lot of people talk about fighting, but not many people do it. So we were keen to fight. I got the 4 fights. And then I was boxing a fair bit. I just come back from Liverpool, and I'd been doing a little bit of boxing over there. So Don and Lee, they were like, "Oh, you should have some amateur boxing fights." So I did. I had 5 amateur boxing fights, and then I went pro. And I had pro boxing fights. I ended up having 7 pro boxing fights. And then I came back to MMA, and then ever since then I've stuck with MMA, and been fighting MMA. Now I'm 10-2, and
far out. And to think of like the boxing cards you've been on as well. Trying to think. I know it's
Danny Green, Danny Green,
like Mundine and Danny Green too.
Even in general, to be honest with you, and I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass, but even recently I went over to train in Sydney and stuff, and a few of the guys there were like, they asked me, have you ever boxed? And I said, yeah, no, because I don't really talk about it. Everyone just thinks I'd rather that. I'm an MMA fighter. And these guys, quite high, pretty well-known, guys in Sydney for pro boxing, world titles these guys have won. And then they look me up and they see my record and they're like, damn, man, he's fought some pretty good guys. And that's the thing, even if you go back and look at all my, as a jiu-jitsu guy, I competed against Craig Jones. And not only did I compete against Craig Jones, I beat Craig Jones.
Yeah, right.
Multiple times. Yeah, I did. I subbed him. I got a video. I got him with, it was sort of like a head arm choke like that sort of thing. And I wrapped it under. Literally, I'll never forget it because Craig is the legend. I honestly have so much love and respect for Craig Jones, for not only because how good he's become, but if you know, and that's why I've always told this story. As a blue belt, I've even got the video. I pick him up, I throw him on the ground, I choke him out in about a minute. And that was Craig Jones, how I met him. And now, if you look at that video and you look at Craig Jones now, that's what hard work and belief does for someone. You can go from being just a scrawny little guy that can get beat in a minute to being, let's be honest, the greatest probably grappler in the world. He is almost up there as one of the greatest. So I love that story with Craig. And then I competed against guys like Tyson Pedro. I competed against him. So I've competed against heaps of high-level guys. And in my pro boxing life, I've competed against guys like Max Reeves, Lucas Miller, Friday, I can never say his name, Friday, he won a bronze medal in the Commonwealth Games. Lucas Miller and Max Reeves both won Australian titles. Yeah. So even as a boxer, I didn't fight bums and that as well. They would just give me whoever, I would say yes, and I'd get in there and do my job. And then, then I went into fight MMA and, get to sort of where I'm at now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So... And then, how many fights did you have before you started fighting international? Because I know you fought on ONE FC and PFL.
Yeah. So I had 6 pro boxing fights at the time, and I had, or maybe 6, and then I had my 7th MMA fight. I went 7-0. I beat I forget his name, Tristan Murphy. I beat him on DFC. I beat Tristan Murphy, who's an ex-eternal champion at 77. I fought him at 77 kilos. I beat him in the first round with a rear naked choke, and then I got signed to ONE FC. And I got signed to ONE FC because I flew to Singapore a couple of weeks later after beating Tristan, and I organised a meeting with a good friend of mine, Boyd Clark, who ran Phuket Top Team. He organised a meeting for me and Chatri, and I went into Chatri's office, and he didn't know who I was. I explained to him who I was and what I wanted to do, and he offered me a contract. And then I started fighting for ONE FC.
Yeah, right. And so how many fights have you had for ONE FC?
I had 2 fights for ONE FC. I fought Peter Baus, he beat me, and then I fought Edward Falang, and I beat him.
I know, because I remember, because the Peter Baus fight, that was the same card as Reagan Ursula and Nikki Holston,
yes.
And I remember we were having a chat on the phone, you were like, trying to comprehend, like, oh my word, it's Nikki Holston.
Yeah, it was. A lot of that stuff, even John Lineker, I remember after my fight, I was pretty beat up, but I was in the hospital and I was sitting next to John Lineker, and I was like, how many times in life can you say that? You both fought on the same card. John Lineker's a legend, But yeah, Nikki Holston, I remember seeing him around the hotel, and I'm in the fighter's hotel as a fighter, fighting on his card. Nikki Holston's a legend, like you said, Ursula, another legend. Nothing but respect for these sorts of people. And I was lucky enough to be on the same card of them, and luckily, Chatri and ONE FC gave me those opportunities. It was amazing.
All right. And I remember then, was it the Peter fight or the Edward fight that was first?
Peter was first.
Peter first. Yeah, because I remember, because I absolutely love watching ONE FC, and especially what they've done as well there. And I remember watching you fight Edward Folliang.
Yeah.
And to think what he's done, he's fought John Wayne Parr.
Beat John Wayne Parr.
And beat him at his own game.
According to combat math, I'm better than John Wayne Parr there.
Yeah, if we're going by combat math, I like MMA math.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my word, it's how some things work. It's like, I beat this guy, and it's like...
It's the internet, bro. The internet's stupid. Don't ever believe anything on the internet.
Yeah, nothing.
Besides this podcast.
Besides this, yeah. And I'm like, and the way you dominated that fight. Like, you knocked him down. And I remember you, and I'm like, when we were doing our PT, you were explaining like how just keeping things very simple, like the KISS method, like keeping simple stupid.
Yep.
And I remember it was like just keeping straight balance, and you dropped him with a hook, was it?
I threw a right hand right hook, and I caught him on the second one. So I stepped over with my right leg, and I caught him with the right hook as he was going back, and I dropped him. And yeah, you know what I mean? But even with that Edward Falang fight, the biggest thing that was different between that Edward Falang fight and the fights previous, that was my mindset. I'll never forget it. You know, I put in a great camp for that fight, but I'll never forget, I was with my friend Linton Vassell, and we were sitting in a recovery place. We both had the boots on, and he said to me, it was about 2 weeks before I flew out, he said to me, he said, Tony, let me see the guy you're fighting. I showed him, and I was on my phone. He goes, what are you watching? I said, I'm watching the guy I'm fighting. I'm just watching his tape. He goes, oh, give me a look. And he goes, let me see. And he looked at the guy, and I'll never forget it. Linton was watching, and he started laughing. He looks up at me, and he goes, Tony, you're going to kill this guy. And I just remember that feeling of just confidence. And the way he said it to me, and he looked at me, it gave me so much confidence. And from that on, I just was supremely confident. And that's, I think, was the biggest change in that fight, was the mindset and the belief of, there's just no way in hell I'm going to lose this fight. Whether it's a belief thing. And if you don't have that belief in you, and even if the result doesn't bounce your way, if you don't have that belief in you, you might as well not go in there anyway. And that was one of the biggest things for me. And that's when I started to learn a lot more about my mind, and about, that the sport isn't just two guys fighting. It's a lot more than that. As simple as it is just, fighting, keep everything small and touch and simple. But simple isn't simple in your mind, simple in your body, simple in your heart, and simple in your skills. And if all those things are combined, you are nothing just now but a warrior. And a warrior now does his job. And what does a warrior do? Like I told you before, he goes out there and he defends his community, because the villagers don't want to go out there and fight to the death.
No,
that's why they have the Spartan, and that's what I plan to do. I plan to go out there and fight that battle for my people, and that's So once all those things click and get into stone, I go out there the Spartan that I am, like I said, and then that music hits. In my mind, there's just nothing in the world that can stop me right now. You're going to have to shoot me, you know what I mean? As simple as that. And I know it sounds, a lot of people would laugh at that, but that is the mentality. If you don't have that mentality, in my opinion, you're doing the wrong sport. This isn't a game of football. You know, I mean, this is to the, this is for everything. This is your ego, your pride. Everything on the line. Your family, your friends, your community. They're all riding. They're hoping for this, and you don't want to let anybody down. So
far out. Far out. So, and I feel like a lot of people don't get to see what happens behind the scenes. So hearing that is really interesting. 100%.
And a lot of people wouldn't even expect a story like that. To me and Linton sitting in a recovery hub 2 weeks before the fight talking, that is the thing that gave me the inspiration. But that's, when you've got such great people around you, that's why Henry and those sorts of people want to keep it simple. Even with Henry and I haven't had crazy in-depth conversations, but Henry has only ever said a few words here and there to me. But the few words that Henry says are so impactful and so, they just hit the point. You're like, damn. And that's the difference between someone who's been there and someone who just, watches it. There's a big difference. Like Henry, Linton, these sorts of, I've had my friends and family tell me how good I am. But I don't believe them because they don't know what I'm like. When Linton and Henry or something, or for any of your teammates, look you in the eye and they say, bro, you got this. You can believe in them. You know what I mean? So, it's a weird one. And I guess only fighters truly understand what I'm talking about. But it's behind the scenes, a lot of things can happen, that the fans don't get to see. And that's why we, fighters, we're always so cool with each other because we all understand what we're going through. The fans may boo us and the fans even may, cheer for us, but who cares? You notice a lot of fighters, you see them after a fight, they embrace each other, they hug each other. They even, I swap T-shirts sometimes with my fighters because, what we do out there isn't for the, for just anybody. So, what happens behind the scenes, we got families, we got this, we're not just entertainment machines, you got to remember some fighters, their parents may be going through cancer and they have to go through a fight camp, knowing that they may lose their parents at any moment. Some fighters have lost their parents leading up to a fight. So, they only get to see 15 minutes of us, the fans, and they will sometimes cheer and boo for you. Who really cares? But they don't realize what happens the 6 to 8 months, the years, leading up to that moment. So that's where I guess as fighters, we do see ourselves differently to a lot of people. And yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, behind the scenes is an amazing thing, you know, because you see some pretty cool like moments in people's lives and careers.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to the, I guess, a bit of the behind the scenes
Yeah.
because you were booked to fight for the lightweight title on DFC against David Martinez,
Yes.
who there's a bit of a story there.
He's a bitch.
Yeah, so
I'll cut straight
so my
through
understanding is that, and obviously I'm gonna ask about it, but he missed weight, couldn't cut more, and you agreed to fight him at a heavier weight, and he still couldn't do it. So elaborate on that. So if you don't mind me asking, what happened?
So I'll tell you exactly how I happened for me. I got a phone call Friday night, so we're fighting on Sunday. Weigh-ins were on Saturday. I got a call late Friday night as me and my fiance were just about to go to the arcade because I like to go do a bit of arcade games, you know, when I'm weight cutting to get my mind off stuff. And as I was leaving to get in the car, Ike rings me and he says, "Oh, I don't want to alarm you, but we're having a few issues with David with his weight cutting." I was like, "What are you talking about, bro? We've still got all day tomorrow. Like, how can you have an issue when tomorrow's weigh-in day at 6 o'clock? Like, you've got well over 24 hours to prepare. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I know." He goes, "I'm just ringing you. I don't want to alarm you. I'm just letting you know what I'm hearing." I said, "Oh, well, thanks, you know, Craig." So we hung up. I went to the arcade. I woke up the next day, get ready to cut my weight. I get on the scale. I'm 74.5 kilos. I get a phone call from Craig saying, "David's still having problems cutting weight." This, like I said, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, "What do you mean? It's 8 o'clock in the morning. He's got all day. Like, we don't have to wait until 6 o'clock. How much does he weigh?" He's 76 kilos. So he's a kilo and a half heavier than me. We've still got till 6 o'clock tonight. I don't understand how you're freaking out already. You know, if it was an hour before, I get it. But bro, people cut 10 kilos sometimes in a day. We've got plenty of time, and I don't understand why the guy's so stressed out. So I'm starting to think, is this guy trying to A, pull out of the fight, or B, is he come over here heavy knowing that I've sold all these tickets, I've sold all these T-shirts, and he's trying to get me at a catch weight? So that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys will do that. If you know the fight business, you've got to be in the fight business for a long time to know this. If I'm an away fighter, you're a hometown boy, you've got 300-400 people coming to watch your fight. I rock up the way and go, "Bro, I'm 4 kilos over." You're not going to say no to the fight because you've got all these people waiting for you. The pressure's on you. So you're going to have to go, "Oh, fuck it, just take some of his purse." But now you've got to fight a guy 4 kilos heavier than you. And it may not seem like much, guys, but it's a big difference because if you've been stressing all week trying to get that weight off, and I've been sitting at home going, "Fuck him, he's going to take the fight anyway," eating fucking chips and not caring. Now I'm fueled up, ready to go, you know. So it's a big thing. So I'm thinking in my head he's trying to do. So I said to Ike, "Well, fuck him." I said, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Make him cut the weight. Like, at least get close to 70. Because another thing is we were fighting for a title, an Iska belt. Which I really wanted to win. It was a nice, cool belt. I wanted to put it up in my gym. It looked sick. And an Iska belt, Iska's belt's been won by guys like Petrosian. I'm pretty sure a guy like Matt Stevens has won belts from Iska. Iska's quite a well-known body across the world. So I was really excited to fight for that belt. And the only way you can win the belt is you have to make the weight. You have to make 70 kilos. Of course. You can't fight for the belt unless you don't make it. So I wanted to make 70 because I want to win the belt. So I'm not going to make 70. He's going to hit 77. That'd be dumb. So I'm saying, Ike, make him get as close as possible. So I don't even care if he came at 72 and I came at 70. If I win, I'm still eligible to get the belt. You know what I mean? Yeah. He wouldn't be eligible. Of course. So anyway, I'm trying to make him get down to the weight. I get a phone call. Ike says, "Look, I don't think he's going to make weight, Tony. He keeps claiming that he can't make it, this and that." So I said, "Well, fuck it, Ike. Just tell him 77 because I'm the hometown guy. I don't want to lose the fight. All my friends and family here, like I just told you." Yeah. And I said, "Put the fight on. Done." I'm ringing him. Calls him. I get a phone call back. "Tony, I don't know what to tell you." He goes, "I've just got off the phone to his coach. His coach refuses to get on the plane to Adelaide, and David's saying now that he's sick." And I was like, "What?" Now he's got a really bad flu and he can't get out of bed. Okay. And I was like, but a minute ago yesterday he's trying to make weight. Today he's got a flu. So I don't know about me. Yeah. I don't know what you would call that. Yeah, that sounds a bit suspicious. Yeah, so I can see what you mean. Yeah, in my world, I try to give David all the benefit of the doubt, but I think that the ultimate thing is, no offense, I think he's seen the Spartan and he got scared. And I don't blame him. If I see me, I'd probably get scared too. You know? Yeah. Yeah, because I'm trying to think who said it. Like, I want to say it was Conor McGregor who said, "I wouldn't want to fight me either."
So I feel like you're speaking to that as well.
And that's the honest truth. I get you. Like, the thing is, and I watched a lot of David, and he can say whatever he wants now. I don't really care. But I watched a lot of his build up to the fight, and he'd always be banging on about Tony Caruso this, Tony Caruso that. And I said to my fiance, I said, no offense to David, he's going to shoot himself in the foot by doing this because he keeps building me up and building me up and building me up. And rightfully so. You should be worried about me. And yeah, then when it came to go pull the trigger, he was like, I don't want to do it. He's too scary.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened to him. I think in his head, he freaked himself out and he bit off more than he could chew. Because, yes, if he was to get in the cage with me, you would be standing in front of this, I believe, on this side of the world. I am the best lightweight on this side of the world. And I don't care if you're signed in the UFC. I don't care if you're in Bellator, PFL. I don't care if you're in a big organization than me.
Yeah.
I believe, obviously barring if Volkanovski moves up to lightweight, he's a legend. He's a true, Volkanovski is a true warrior, and I admire him so much. So I don't even put myself in the same category as him. But any of those other guys who are signed to the UFC, I believe I'm the best lightweight on this side of the world. I believe I have the most rounded skills. And David knew that. David is a wrestler who would want to get you to the ground and use his jiu-jitsu on you. And I think David knew that A, I'm a better wrestler than him, and B, that I'm a better jiu-jitsu player than him. And then C, I'm a far better striker than him. And that's why I think I'm a scary matchup for anybody in the world. And when I do get my chance to step out there in the world stage again, and I do what I say I'm going to do, and that's kick some ass, don't be shocked. And I think that's what happened to David. I think he just knew, I don't have what it takes. And unfortunately, David isn't a warrior, because I will say this, and even Nick Hughes will say, 2 days before the fight, me and Nick were doing some wall work, and he fell on my foot, twisted, and we heard a crack on my foot, but didn't break nothing. Maybe a ligament or something we hurt in there. And the first thing in my mind was, oh, fuck, now I've got to fight with 1 foot. I never, ever once thought about pulling out. I've even fought with staph. I've had staph in my chest, and I still fought with it. I've fought with multiple injuries. I've had a broken hand in the first round, and I fought through the fight still, so I've never pulled out. So, unfortunately, I do think David got scared, and he ran away. But once again, like I said, I don't blame him. I'm just more upset for the fans and my family that missed out on the opportunity to watch me live in Adelaide.
Yeah, because I remember there was a lot of promotion leading up to that, and it was built. And I remember as soon as that was announced, and I was like, "Oh my word, this was huge!" Like,
it was, the biggest. It would have been the biggest sporting event, martial arts event in Adelaide by far.
Yeah,
and and once again, I'm not tooting my own horn, but that's the sort of person that I am. That's the sort of, I guess, let's say, the persona that I carry. Now, I am Adelaide's golden boy in a sense, and I haven't been forever. Let me just say that. Only of recent people have begun to realise Tony is that guy, because I just do my fucking job. I show up day in, day out. I've fought on all the biggest cards, and I've proved myself. I've won on the big cards. I've won overseas. I've travelled overseas and did my job over and over and again. And I finally got to come back to Adelaide and, put a show on for my people. And, man, I was going to put on one hell of a show too. That's the thing, that I had this desire in my heart that I was going to knock that guy clean out. I was devastated that the fight didn't get to happen. And, it was deflating. The whole event, I felt like got a bit of a, sucked a lot of the energy out of the event. A lot of the fans were disappointed. A lot of Australian MMA was disappointed. But that's on David and his team. But you see him, even recently, he was meant to fight Harry Webb, and he pulled out again because of weight cutting issues. David and his team need to sit back and either consider him going up to 77 or, I don't know, just quit the sport, bro, because, you're not helping anybody out by doing dumb shit like that, And even for Harry, Harry talks shit about me sometimes on the internet. But even for me, I was disappointed for the fight for poor Harry, because I think he's a good young talent. He's a good, tough kid. I was disappointed to see that fight not happen.
Yeah, so, I was going to speak to that, because I'm like, because it's twice now that David has done that. And
twice? He's done it several times.
Several times. Well, I know about this twice in recent memory.
I never had heard about him not making weight. So literally a week before Damien was here, Damien Val, and he said to me, I know that Martinez is not known for making weight. And I thought to myself, don't let that be the truth. Why did he have to say that? And I was like, and I never heard of that before. And then that happened. I was like, damn, Damien was right.
So now Harry Webb, which his last fight for the Eternal Lightweight title, that was, to me, insane.
Yeah, it was an insane decision, if you ask me. I don't know.
Insane? You don't agree with it?
I mean,
to me, I just enjoyed fight. I didn't care
great
about
fight,
the
of
decision.
course, great
Yeah.
fight. But I more so felt for the South African kid. I thought, I thought he won that fight pretty clearly, in my opinion. Definitely the last round, where he finished on top with a choke.
Yeah.
First round, he punched him up. I maybe gave Harry the second round, maybe. But I think the South African kid, and I'm not knocking on Harry because I know.
It was Kevin Cophamel?
Yeah, whatever his
Kevin
name was. I will say one thing about Kevin. He is a fucking talent. That kid, honestly, and that's no hating on Harry. I know that even though you talk shit about me, I won't talk shit about you. That kid can fight, man. That Kevin kid, he is a fucking beast, bro.
Yeah.
He took a guy a weight division heavier than him on a day's notice and showed amazing skills in his striking, in his wrestling, in his jiu-jitsu. So very impressive South African. So Harry, even though I do think you lost, I don't think you lost to a bum of an opponent. You lost to a really, really good fighter. So, in my opinion, I thought that Harry lost. But, yeah, you know what I mean? That's just my opinion, too.
Yeah, of course.
I mean? Yeah.
Of course, far out. So, far out. And
you didn't see that coming.
I'm sort of going...
Sit back, watch that fight again and score round by round and tell me what you think. Get back to me.
A lot of fights, I do feel like it's like, you watch back and it's like, you look at it in a whole different... from a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you see yourself in the future fighting Harry?
If Harry Webb is the fight that can be done, of course, I wanted to fight him in that Hex card. But you got to remember, for a fighter like me, my team's in Florida. So I have to fly to Florida. I have to train. Then I have to bring my camp back over here. So I've got to bring one of my coaches with me, at least one. That's fair enough. I would like two because you do need at least two good cornermen coming over here. So therefore, you're looking at anywhere from $6,000 to $9,000 in travel alone. Because to get to America back, it's not cheap. Bringing your team over, and the numbers that they offered me, Hex, for that fight, were ridiculous. It was stupid. I was like, come on, man, it doesn't even cover my flight to America. Then, no offense, you want me to. So I have to, because my camps, roughly, I keep all my accounts. I do a very professional job on my career. And my camps, they cost me upwards of $15,000 a camp. Yeah, I'm looking, because I don't cut any corners, man. That's why I get the results that I get. You people can say to me, why don't you just train in Australia and you can fight Harry? I don't want to. When I prepare, I prepare like a true fucking Spartan. I'm going to war, and I plan to go to war to the very end. So I must prepare like a true Spartan. And that is my team in Killcliff. So it cost me a lot of money. I take those sacrifices. I go to America and do it. They offered me a terrible number, and I just said to them, look, I'm not interested. So look, if Harry and his team, if Harry and his team want to meet me in Florida, we can do that. Even better. It will cost me. They can bear the cost of bringing the team over and do all that sort of stuff. So of course, if that kid is the right fight for me, I'll fight him. But at the end of the day, bro, I'm gonna fight anybody that's pointing me in the right direction. So if Harry was to get a contract on the table for the UFC, when it takes the contract, and I'll rock up.
Say like Contender Series.
I'd rock up for free and do that, man. I'd rock up because my next fight needs to either be with the UFC, PFL, Bellator, or fighting to get into those organizations, because I've done my time now. I've had 12 fights outside of I've had out of the big leagues, I've had 9 fights. I'm on a 2-fight win streak. You know what I mean? I think it's time now that I get what's coming my way, and that's it.